guys, I hope you're doing well and welcome back to my channel, and thank you ever so much to invite me again on this brand new video. So since I have finished reading Aladdin and Cinderella on my first read aloud content, well, I guess you enjoyed that so far, and thank you ever so much to listen to me reading. That was it was great. I hope you appreciate it, guys. I really appreciate your support me. So this time, I'll be moving on to read is Walt Disney's Peter Pan. Is anyone familiar with Peter Pan? Does anyone like original 1953 classic? I love Peter Pan. I like Peter Pan since childhood. It was my childhood favourites Disney films ever. And as you could look carefully, you can see the logo of. You can see here it is Disney's Wonderful World of Reading. You can see the logo of that. Does it look so familiar? I bet it is, guys. Okay, so first of all, it's time to begin reading Peter Pan with me. Right, you ready? Wendy, darling, and her brothers, John and little Michael, were restless. It was almost their bedtime, but they weren't sleeping at all. What shall we play? Asked John, with a sigh. I'm tired of those old games. Well, said Wendy, I could tell you a story about Peter Pan. Hooray! Shouted Michael and John. So Wendy told them about Peter Pan and the pirates. Wendy knew lots of stories about Peter Pan. Peter was a magical boy who lived in the Neverland with his friends, the Lost Boys, and a pixie named Tinkerbell. In Wendy's stories, Peter and his friends had lots of exciting adventures. After Wendy had finished this story, John and Michael pretended to be pirates. Take that! Shouted John as he waved his toy sword. Just then the children heard the voice just outside the window. It must be around here somewhere, the voice said. The children looked out. It was Peter Pan. Peter flew by the nursery window often. He loved Wendy's stories, especially since they were all about him. But the last time he had visited the nursery, he had left something behind. Have you seen my shadow? Asked Peter. Oh, Peter, said Wendy. With a chuckle, here's your shadow. Sit down. I'll sew it back on. While Wendy sewed Peter's shadow back on, her brothers asked Peter about Neverland. Neverland, said Peter with a laugh. It's a wonderful place. I'll take you there, he offered. Once we're there, Wendy can tell the Lost Boys your stories, and John and Michael can help us fight pirates. But how can we get there? Wendy asked. That's easy. All you have got to do is fly. Just think happy thoughts. Peter told them. The children thought they happiest thoughts, but they still couldn't fly. We weren't able to go with you, said disappointed Wendy. Peter was puzzled for the moment, but then he laughed. I forgot the pixie dust, he said. He sprinkled some Tinkerbell's magic dust on the children. In no time at all, they were flying through the air on their way to Neverland. Before the children knew it, they had reached Neverland. Wendy sighed and said, "Oh, Peter, it's just as I dreamed it would be." Suddenly, they heard a mighty boom and a cannonball zoomed past them. It had came from the pirate ship below, which belonged to Captain Hook, Peter's enemy. The captain had lost his left hand, fighting Peter, and the hungry crocodile had swallowed it. Now Captain Hook spent all his time trying to catch Peter Pan. "Don't be scared," said Peter. "We can outfly him easily." Peter brought Wendy and her brothers to his home. He lived in a secret underground hideout with the Lost Boys and Tinker Bell. The Lost Boys were waiting outside to welcome Peter and his new friends. They were happy to hear that Wendy was going to tell them stories, but Tinker Bell was unhappy. She thought Peter Pan liked his new friends better than he liked her. She was especially jealous of Wendy. So while Peter showed Wendy and John and Michael his secret hideout, Tinker Bell flew away. Later, the Lost Boys offered to take Michael and John on a tour of Neverland. "Oh boy," said Michael, as they marched through the jungle. "I bet we have plenty of exciting adventures here." As the boys followed John through the jungle, none of them noticed all the mysterious eyes that watched them from behind the bushes and trees. Without warning, a group of Indians leaped out of the bushes and grabbed the boys. The Indians tied up the boys and took them to the Indian village. At the village, the Indian chief was waiting for them. He was very hungry. "Where's my daughter, Princess Tiger Lily?" he asked the Lost Boys. "What have we done with her?" "We haven't done anything with her," said the boys. "Will you let us go?" "No," answered the chief. Meanwhile, Peter was giving Wendy on her own tour of Neverland. As they flew, Peter suddenly noticed Captain Hook and his first mate, Mr. Smee. In a small boat, they were heading for the Scale Rock, and they were not alone. They had captured Princess Tiger Lily. Peter and Wendy flew closer. "If you don't tell us where Peter Pan's secret hideout is, we will leave you here," Captain Hook said to Tiger Lily. But Tiger Lily refused even to look at Captain Hook. At once, Peter flew down to the rescue of Tiger Lily. "Stop what you're doing, Hook, or you'll have to answer to me," Peter shouted. Captain Hook and Peter began fighting, but Peter was much too quick for the captain. In the water nearby, a hungry crocodile watched as Peter and Hook fought. It was the very same crocodile that had once swallowed Hook's hand. The crocodile had liked the taste so much that was always followed Hook around, hoping to get another bite. Hook was no match for Peter, and he soon fell into water. The crocodile had been waiting for his chance. Hook, however, was determined to escape his gaping jaws. "Smee!" he shouted. "Save me!" "I'm coming, Captain. I'm coming. Hold on," Smee shouted as he rolled swiftly toward Hook. While Smee rescued Hook from the crocodile, Peter quickly untied Tiger Lily. Then Peter flew away. carrying Tiger Lily in his arms. Wendy followed them to the Indian village. Chief was happy to get his daughter back. He released all the boys at once. Then he gave orders for a big celebration. Everyone sang and danced, had a wonderful time. After the party, Peter and Wendy and all the boys went back to the secret hideout. Tinkerbell hadn't gone to the party. She was still jealous of Wendy, and when everyone returned, Tinkerbell flew off by herself. She was so angry that she didn't notice someone watching her. Suddenly, the little pixie found herself trapped in a pirate's cap. Smee hurried back to the ship with Tinkerbell. Once aboard the ship, Smee released Tinkerbell. "Welcome aboard, Miss Tinkerbell," said Captain Hook. "I am sure you have noticed," he continued, "that things have gone from the bad to the worse on this island since that girl Wendy arrived. Tomorrow, I'll be leaving the island forever. I'll take Wendy to the sea with me. If you tell me where I can find her." All Tinkerbell wanted was to get rid of Wendy. On the map, she showed Hook where the hideout was. She didn't know Hook was really after Peter Pan. "He have been most helpful," snarled Hook. "Now I have Peter Pan when I want him." Hook locked Tinkerbell in a lantern and ordered his men to surround Peter's hideout. Meanwhile, Wendy and her brothers had decided it was time to go home. The Lost Boys wanted to join them, but Peter didn't want to leave Neverland, so he stayed behind in the hideout and never saw the pirates capture Wendy and the boys as they left. The pirates took Wendy and the boys to the ship. They tied the fighting children to the big mast. "I will give you a choice," said Hook. "Become pirates or walk the plank." When Tinkerbell had heard Hook's plan, she knew she had to warn Peter. She was finally able to break the glass in the lantern and escape. Then she quickly flew back to the hideout. Excitedly, she told Peter they had to save Wendy and the boys. Back on the pirate ship, Captain Hook was determined and demanding an answer. "What would we be?" said Hook. "A pirate's life or a plank?" "I'm sure Peter will rescue us," Wendy whispered to the boys. Then bravely she said to Captain Hook, "We will never become pirates. We will die first." And she walked onto the plank and jumped off. Everyone excited for the splash, but the splash never came. Peter arrived just in time to catch Wendy as she fell. "Oh, Peter, I know you would come back," Wendy said happily. Peter took Wendy to the safe place. Then he returned to fight Hook. "I will get you for this, Peter Pan," cried Captain Hook. The two began fighting while the children and pirates watched. As always, Peter was much quicker and smarter than the captain. They fought all the way up to the ship's rigging as Hook jabbed his sword at Peter. He lost his balance, and much to the delight of a hungry crocodile below, Hook fell into the sea with a big splash. Once the pirates saw that Peter had defeated their captain, Then they gave up the fight, then decided to follow Hook and abandon ship. It was difficult for the pirates to keep up with the captain. However, Hook was swimming very fast trying to escape the hungry crocodile. Back on the ship, everyone cheered for Peter Pan. They were surprised to hear gave orders to cast off. "Where are we going?" Wendy asked him. I'm taking you home," Peter told her. At the Peter Pan's command, Tinkerbell happily sprinkled the pirate ship with a golden pixie dust to make it fly. Soon the children were back in the nursery. They knelt by the window and watched a magical ship sail off into the starry sky, and they waved goodbye. Wendy and her brothers knew they would never forget their adventures with Peter Pan. Well, this is an interesting story about reading Disney's Peter Pan. I think he's just quite inspired by classic J.M. Barrie. Is some of you quite familiar with Peter Pan? So, okay, so I'm glad you enjoyed reading with me on this video, and if you want to give a thumbs up and what it comes down below, and you're always welcome to, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for here's notification. If you are happy to stay tuned for another read aloud reading doing the classic Disney stories, and I hope you stay tuned, and I hope thank you very much, and hope you have a great day. I'll see you guys on the next video.